How's it going, everyone? My name is Patrick. I got started in the tech industry making $8 an hour as an intern, and over the last 7 years, I've made over $850,000. Here's how I did it. When I was a young kid, I was really interested in computers and in technology. When I was a senior in high school, I took an intro to computer science course, which is actually the first year that they offered that at my school. Um, and so I knew that I wanted to pursue technology and anything to do with computers after high school, but my circumstances while I was in high school kind of prevented me from fully focusing on school and going to college. Like I had to move out and live on my own at 16 and hold down two jobs. So really, I didn't have the bandwidth or the energy or to pursue higher education like at a brick and mortar college. So I ended up finding out about a tech program called Year Up through my former roommate at the time. And so Year Up is a 1 year nonprofit organization. The first 6 months is kind of like a training in a classroom environment where you get to train, and the last 6 months is an internship with one of their corporate partners. And so I ended up going to Europe for cybersecurity, and I was able to secure an infosec internship at Symantec. Entire year after high school, I was just fully focused, all gas, no brakes, just trying to really break into tech. And this was end of 2017, early 2018. And so, this is when the tech industry was red hot, and especially the security industry, right? Um, I didn't end up getting a return offer after my internship was over. However, I got really lucky because I was able to get a job at a managed service provider. Um, and so, right after my internship ended, I immediately started at the MSP. And for those who aren't familiar, a managed service provider is basically similar to a law firm, but for IT, right? And so, essentially, the MSP that I had worked for would manage the entire tech stacks and the entire IT teams for our clients. So everything from help desk and desktop support to on-prem to cloud migrations, managing infrastructure, networks, automating things with scripts, and kind of like device deployment. So an MSP is a great place to learn because there's so many clients, there's so many tech stacks, and you're working on so many projects at any given time that you're accelerating your learning. So I got really, really, really lucky, getting that role right after my internship. Um, and so at this point, I was making $75,000 at 19 years old, which was excellent. But mainly, it was the learning environment, right? I mean, my role there was really as a help desk support, desktop support IT consultant. Um, and so everything from managing and deploying machines through Jamf, managing identities using AD and Okta and group policies. I was able to automate some of the onboarding, offboarding workflows using Better Cloud. So I stayed at that place for 2 years. After I was able to kind of like learn all that I could, I ended up getting a job at a high growth tech startup called Iterable. And so that was an excellent place to learn. I feel like Iterable is really where I learned a lot of the skills that I have today, mainly because we were just scaling rapidly. And so when you're in kind of like that acceleration phase and like a high growth phase, you really have to stress test and kind of ensure that all of your workflows, all of the projects, everything that you build has to be resilient and very scalable. And so Iterable, I was able to really hone in on my Jamf skills. So doing CPE related work, so deploying devices, making sure policies were deployed correctly, running scripts on the devices themselves to perform updates and regular checks. This is when device-based trust was becoming a really big paradigm in IT. Um, while I was at Iterable, I was able to use Python and a bit of Bash. This is also where I discovered how to use APIs. And so using APIs with Postman and Python request library, and also using GAM or Google App Manager, I also got the most amount of certifications at Iterable. I got Jamf certified. I was able to get my AWS certification, Cloud Practitioner cert, and then also the Okta Certified Professional certification, which I think really rounded out my experience at Iterable. So I stayed there for about 2 years, and in those 2 years, I started off as a contractor, making $95,000 a year. After 6 months, I was converted to an FTE employee, making 110, and then a year after that, I was able to get a raise for about 120. So after 2 years there, I was kind of just sending feelers out. Wasn't really looking. Really enjoyed the team that I worked with at Iterable. We were fully remote, so it was pretty gravy. However, I ended up getting an offer from Sumo Logic, and this was where I was able to really see that that 200K total comp. And so at Sumo Logic, the offer that I received there was 163 base plus 30K RSU vested, 120K RSU vested over 4 years, which amounts to about 193K a year. Boss there wasn't the greatest person. He actually ended up getting convicted for stealing money from Sumo Logic. Crazy enough, not surprised at all. But after 3 months, we parted ways because it just wasn't a good fit for anyone. So after Sumo Logic, ended up getting a job offer from Asana, and this is where I caught my really big break. I finally hit that 200K mark. So at Asana, I was able to really further and hone in on some of the skills that I had learned previously. I was on the IT systems engineering team on the identity side, so focused on IAM, access control, automating onboarding and offboarding. The last 6 months of my tenure at Asana, I actually did a rotation with our security team. I was able to get a lot of insight and shadow what a security team, how a security team operates. So things like observability, implementing increased telemetry, and automated alerts around your environment and your infrastructure. So suspicious logins, automated remediation of incidents and alerts, and also firefighting firefighting incidents as they came in. So that was really insightful, kind of getting a behind the scenes look on what a security team did and how they operated. It's a great learning experience. I also started college during this time while I was at Asana, so I ended up going back to school to get my bachelor's degree in software engineering from WGU. And actually, I'm wrapping up my last class today, so real full circle moment. So at Asana, I stayed there for about a little over 2.5 years. Fortunately, back in February, the company did another round of layoffs, and my role was affected as a part of that. I can't say that I was completely surprised. I mean, we did layoffs essentially almost every year that I was there, and I saw the writing on the wall. I could see the warning signs, so not terribly surprised. So after Asana, I ended up getting a job at a health tech startup. I really loved the mission. It was fully remote. However, after about 4 weeks, my entire team left. So, the director, our manager, the other system engineer on the team, and so essentially I was flying solo for a little bit, and I realized it wasn't run as well as I had hoped. So I ended up leaving that place after 2 months. And I'm now at a high growth tech company with a lot of potential upside, in a similar role. So a sysadmin, system engineer role where I'm responsible for building automations, using APIs, and kind of automating anything and everything in our environment. So some tips that I have if I could go back and start all over. I'd say stay curious, stay learning about anything and everything that you can, or really anything that interests you. One of the things that I discovered really early on is the tech industry moves really fast, as I'm sure you all know. So in order for you to keep up and stay up to date with the skills and technologies that are current, you really have to stay current, and you really have to stay curious and constantly learn. from your peers, from industry events, from conferences, from watching content like this. Um, Tip number 2 is, I'd say, focus on the soft skills. I know everyone says this, but really it's super important. Learning how to communicate with stakeholders, right? So members of your team, other managers and people leaders, other department heads. The soft skills really helps as far as visibility for the work that you're doing, and also being able to communicate effectively is super important. The third tip is go as deep as you can technically. So I'd say, when I was first starting out, I was kind of like really afraid of anything that had to do with programming and coding. But I learned early on, especially when I was at Iterable, that, you know, programming and coding and scripting can actually be very effective. And it's actually quite intuitive if you just take the time to learn it. And it's a little funny. It's a bit funny, right? Because I'm about to graduate with a software engineering degree. Tip number 4: always stay educating yourself. So as much as you can, pick up certifications. I'm getting a formal degree, but I'd say just educate yourself, and kind of ties back to the earlier point, which is stay curious and stay learning. So that's all I had to say. Really appreciate y'all for tuning in, and good luck on your career journey.